in the first year for President Trump. Illinois Congressman Kinzinger, member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, pilot in the Air National Guard. Sir, welcome back and good morning.
Thanks.
Good morning to you. I read 3% in Iraq, 5% in Syria. That is significant progress. How do you rate that on the year that just passed?
I'd give this offensive an A for sure. I think from the military perspective, one of the most important things the president has done is empower not just the generals in Washington, D.C., but the field commanders. In many cases, what would happen under the prior administration, or frankly when the military and wars get too bureaucratic, in Vietnam and other places, is you would have to have a kill chain escalation where it would go all the way up to like Washington, D.C. before you get permission to fire on a certain target. And by that time, 30 minutes later, you're following a vehicle. The vehicle is already parked in, a house or something, and you're not going to blow it up because you don't know who else is there. When you lower that ability to make a kill shot at a lower level, maybe it's a captain or a major, you can have that quick reaction and take out more targets. And so we've seen an extremely rapid progress against ISIS. The only thing I do worry about long term is the fight is not just destroying a current terrorist organization, it's depriving terrorists of that next generation of recruits, the 6 and 7-year-olds today.
That means General James Mattis and others are pretty much in control. Yeah,
and I think the president said when he was running for president, he said, look, I'm going to empower the people that know what they're doing. And that's what he's doing. A lot of the times the president in the prior administration, President Obama, would be fearful of action. I don't think he ever intended, for ISIS to come to power. He never intended for Syria to become a tragedy. But I think he was paralyzed by action, and so therefore there was a lot of inaction he'd overthink. President Trump has given a lot of thought to this, but said, I'm going to put the decision-making, not in the grand strategic things, how many troops to send to Afghanistan, or whether to send troops to Afghanistan, but how many do we send? What are the objectives? How do we accomplish them? And how do we make sure that our men and women on the battlefield are able to take out targets much quicker so that they can't, continue to exist and recruit?
There are some on the left who agree entirely, they disagree entirely with the whole approach.
Right.
Susan Rice, former ambassador, is one of them. Today in the New York Times, lengthy article she penned says the following about America first, making America weak. In Mr. Trump's estimation, we live in a world where America wins only at others' expense. There is no common good, no international community, no universal values, only American values. America is no longer a global force for good, as in President Obama's last strategy, or a shining city on a hill, as in President Reagan's vision. Did you read that?
I did. Now she's a Reaganite. That's funny. Well, look, we could deploy a truckload of ponies to hand out to ISIS. I don't think it's going to work. And so I guess I can agree in the broad terms in that we should be an example. We should be a shining city on a hill, like Ronald Reagan said. We have to compel people or show them an example of self-governance and what democracy can do. But when you cross us, whether you're ISIS or whether you're an adversary, there's going to be a fierce response. And the first thing we need to do, the first thing the president needs to think of, first thing Congress needs to think of, is how do we protect the American people and how do we make America stronger? And you don't have to do it on the backs of other people, like she's implying the president's saying. He's never said anything like that. But he is saying it's time to take care of ourselves at home and have an international strategy that protects us. And by the way, protecting us means denying ISIS the next generation of recruits.
One of her bigger points was lumping China and Russia in the same category, suggesting that's you need to distinguish between these two world powers. Your view on that?
Well, they're both adversaries. I think they're both different kinds of adversaries. In terms of distinguishing them, I think that's her making a very minor point. The president in a speech said, look, we have adversaries on the world stage. Here's a couple of them. China is empowering North Korea by not doing all that they can, and they're building fake islands in the sea. I mean, that's very different than Russia, who's invading Ukraine and killing a lot of people. So I think the president made it very clear that we have adversaries, but in those adversaries, it doesn't mean the only answer is in some cases there may be an opportunity.
Well, sir, thank you for your time today. Busy day on the Hill.